Hello everyone, welcome to Community Force webinar. My name is Mehreen Mirza and I'm going to facilitate this webinar and will be answering questions that you may have during the Q&A break. So we have a few more attendees joining us. While we wait for our other attendees to join, let us show you how you can use this webinar to ask questions and access the handouts. As you can see, there is a panel on the right-hand side of your screen with an arrow. Please use that arrow that is represented in an orange box to collapse or open this panel. All of you have been put on mute in order to avoid any confusion during this presentation. Although you're allowed to ask questions, you can use the question area on the left-hand panel, on the right-hand panel, to type in your questions and click on send or enter. We will receive your questions and answer them in by either typing them in or verbally during the Q&A break. If we miss answering any of your questions, we will send you a response via email after this webinar. Okay, we are still being joined. Okay, all right. Okay, well, since also a copy of today's presentation is available in the handout section. Please click on the PDF copy by clicking on the title of the handout as shown here. This handout contains the links to individual help guides, knowledge-based articles of each of the topics that we are going to cover today. Since most of you have joined, let us start with a brief of this training webinar. The topic for today is reporting, that is ad hoc reporting and global reporting. We have with us Christine Smith, who will be our trainer for today and will go over all the relevant areas under this topic. The duration of this webinar is 1 hour. I will now pass over the mic to Christine. All yours, Christine. Thank you, everyone.
And thank you, Maureen, for that introduction. So let's go ahead and get started with our presentation today. We have a little bit to cover, so we do want to try to get this covered within our time frame. So of course, to get started, we're going to be covering an overview of the ad hoc feature in the Community Force site. And so this is where you can pull data from the different application questions, your reviewer scorecard questions, as well as include awarding information into reports. And so we'll talk about the ad hoc reporting, and then we'll also talk about the global ad hoc reports. So that's when you want to be able to report across multiple application forms. So we'll talk about how that function works. And then we'll give you an overview of some of the other key reports that we have available on our system that you might not be aware of that are out there. So who's going to benefit? Of course, any one of you who are admins that are responsible for reporting on data within the application process. So if you're one that needs to be able to report back to your peers the success of your projects, then of course this would be a benefit to you, since we'll be talking about how to create those reports. So the different reports we're going to talk about the ad hoc reports. And then we'll talk about the section status report, what that is. You may see that out there on your site, so you may be wondering what that is. And then just kind of an overview of what the application graph is. You probably see that out there and just may not understand what that's for. And then after that, we'll take a nice little break, 5 to 10 minute break, and that's when we'll review the questions that you've entered during the presentation, and then Maureen will be answering those questions for you. And then after the break, we're going to then get into the global reporting. So that's where we'll get into the global ad hoc report. We'll talk about the Global Manage Awards, the Fund History Report, the Global Manage Applicants Report, the Recommender Report History, as well as the Global Search. So those are all global functionalities. And so when we say the word global, we're talking about global meaning all the application forms you have currently live on your site. How can you access those without having to go in and out of applications, as well as how can you run a report that picks up data from multiple application forms. And then at the end, we'll take another final break, and then we'll close the session for today. So the first topic we want to discuss today is going to be the ad hoc reports. So ad hoc reports, if you may be familiar with them or maybe not, But what it does is it's a reporting functionality on our site that gives you the ability to create your own reports, and it allows you to pull in those reports data across any application field that you've put into your application form, any of your reviewer task card questions, you can pull those into your report, as well as your award information. So what was the fund the applicants were awarded? What was the fund amount? You can also pull that into your reports as well. And then also if you have any site settings, if that you activated any award site settings, those fields that you activated for your award screen, those also can be put into the award report aspect as well. So let's go ahead and talk about how to build some ad hoc reports. And during today's presentation, I will show you how to just do a basic, maybe like an address report. And then I'll go back in and I'll show you how you can do a report on your scorecards, and then how you can do a report on your awarding. So let's go ahead and get to the site. And I am doing a scholarship site today. I did notice we do have some of you who are grant users. Please know that it is the same functionality, whether it's a grant site or a scholarship site. So it's going to be the same screen, same location. It's just we're on the scholarship site, and of course your site's going to be labeled grant site. Just that the labeling is all that's going to be a little different. So I'm going to go ahead and go in on my application form. So I'm logged into my site and I'm on the home page. And so I want to create reports on a specific single application that I have out there. I'm done with my process, maybe I'm not done. You don't have to be done, but I want to start running some reports on my data from that specific program. So I'm going to click on it. And then to get to the reporting functionality where you can create custom reports, you're going to go to this tab here that says Manage Reports. And then once you get here, you'll be on the report page. So of course, any reports you've created, or other ones that have created where they've made it visible to everyone, you'll be able to see the reports created for this specific application form. You'll be able to see all of them that have been built out. So of course, if you want to review a report that's already out there, all you need to do is you can just come over here and view it, which we'll be viewing those today. You'll be able to see when it was last updated on. So of course, if it's not a closed out application, there's probably data still coming in. So of course, you're going to always want to make sure you go and when you view, you're getting the most current information. And then also, if you want to make a change to an existing report, then you can come over here and hit the edit icon and then change any of the parameters. But know that if you do make a change to your report, then of course, if you make a change, it will be a permanent change. There's no way to revert back. So sometimes you might want to make a copy of the existing report. So if you want to copy it, then it's just a matter of clicking the copy button here. And then what it'll do is create an exact replica for you. And then you'll be able to, of course, give it a date to make that copy created. And it'll just be an exact copy. And then all you have to do is just change the name. And then you can make the changes that you want to on that specific copy. So that's just a couple of features here on this page. And of course, if you want to delete a report, remember if you delete something, it's gone completely. You can hit the delete can here. So just those are pretty universal symbols. And so I just wanted to explain to you from this screen, that's how you can make edits to existing reports as well as copy existing reports and to view the data. So we're going to talk about today, though, we want to really focus on creating a new report. So to create a new report, so from scratch, we hit create new report. And then of course, here is where you're going to start. So here's where you're going to give it a name. And I'm just going to call this my applicant contact information. And give it a description. And then here, report visibility. So if you're the only one that needs to see this report, no one else in your organization, you don't need to share it with anyone in your any additional administrators in your organization, then you can leave it visible to me. But if you want all of your administrators that have access to the report site set functionality, then you would want to make this visible to all so that they too can run this report on their own. And then down here, report includes. So this is where you're making that determination of, I'm building a report. What do I want to report on? And where are the fields located that I want to include in my report? So application data, don't confuse that with section data and data from your application form. Application data is going to be the data in regards to who's the applicant that logged in. It's going to give you the application data is always their first name, their last name, their email from their login profile. So this isn't any fields that are their first name, their last name field within the application form. Application data is going to be giving you, like we have in all of our reports, where you see first name, last name. If you're a grant user, you have organization name from when they've created their login profile. That's all within application data. Also within application data, that's data regarding their status. Are they pending submission? Are they under committee review? That's considered application data. Their submittal date, that's considered application data. So when I build a report, just a best practice rule is I always include application data, because when I want to run a report, I always want to include that status. And because that status is important to me, I want to know where they are in the functionality. I want to be able to maybe have status details. I want to see where they are in my flow, so that if I want to, I can filter that out as well when I'm creating my report and I'm doing the filtering portion of my report. I can actually filter specific statuses if I wish. So that's application data. And then when we open it up to the next page, you'll see more of what's in application data. Section data is going to be exactly what it says. So when you built out your application form, you had all those sections. So every little icon that's on the applicant's page is a section. And within that section is where you gave all the questions that your applicants needed to answer. So all those fields are going to be in section data. So of course, I'm making a contact information report. I want to know how the applicants answered those questions. So I'm going to include the section data. Scorecard information, that's the task cards, the scoring rubric cards, the question cards, whatever you call it within your organization, that task that you're giving to your reviewers, that they're going in and they're answering questions, they're scoring their applicants, all of the questions that you've built to give to your reviewers to do the review process. That's the questions that are going to be scorecard information. So I'm going to leave that blank for now, because I'm going to go back in and show you how to pull that data. So I don't need that for this specific report, so I'm not going to select it. And the same with award information. I don't care about what the awarding was at this point in time. I just want to create an address list. So I'm going to leave that out, because I don't need to know the fund they were awarded. I don't need to know the funding amount. I don't need to know, what was the check I used, any of those site setting questions. I don't need that. But any question like in the site settings, so under administration site settings, there's that award section. And in that awards section, there's an area where you can activate your own questions that you want to capture in regards to the awarding of that applicant. And so if you've activated any of those questions, those will be in the award information portion, where if I was to select that, then I can be able to see those fields and add that into my application form, my report. So now let's go ahead and hit save and next. And then this is where we're going to start really building out the report. So when we're building a report, most of you are probably familiar with maybe Google Sheets, or you use Microsoft Excel, some type of a reporting functionality where you're building reports, and each item you're building a report on has its own column. Well, that's how this is being built as well. So when you're building your report, always think of what you want in your front columns and then all the way through the flow. How do you want those columns to be in that report when you get them? So what we're going to do is we're going to start building out the report. And so based on what I selected on that first page, so remember I selected that application data and I selected section data. It's going to then show me all of the available areas that I can pull data on. So each one of these are those sections. Now, do note that if you have a section in your application settings in your setup, you have a section that currently is not activated, it will not show here on this screen. So this is going to show you only the active section. So if you have some sections that aren't activated yet, maybe you have reporting, like after that you've done your awarding, you have reports and you haven't activated those sections, then those won't be available to be able to report on until they've been activated. And of course, you probably won't report on them until you're activating them because there's no applicant data. Applicants haven't completed those. So that's why you're not going to be seeing those here on this page. So only the ones that you've actually have active, and then it's actually ones that applicants are completing, or other individuals they've asked to complete those sections, like for request sections. So application data, remember I said that's everything in regards to their login, their status, their submittal. So if I click that where the double dashes are, that's the actual section that the system is looking at to know what data I want to pull into my report. So here you can kind of see what some of those fields are. And so with my specific report, I do want to know the status. I'm not using status details, so I won't be pulling that information in here. But I do maybe want to know what their submittal date was. And if I'm collecting payment, maybe I want to know, has it been paid? So then I'm just going to select over here. And based on what I selected, the first one and the second one, that'll be column 1 and 2. And so then I hit this directional arrow. Now it's saying, okay, this is 2 fields I want to put into my report. Now, when I put these fields in here, I do want to unselect them. And if I want to rearrange anything, so once you start putting fields in, and so I always like to do it section by section, because once you get it all those fields in, you're scrolling and you're trying to find, and then you have to move, and it's just a one position move every time. So you'll notice these 2 arrows down here. This is how I can change where that specific column falls. So maybe I want date submitted to be the first column. So what I can do is I can select it. That's why I unselected them, because you can only move one at a time. So now I'm selecting the one I want to move, and now I'm hitting this directional and saying make that my first column. So that's how you move items in the column field, just so you know that. Okay, so now I'm going to start continue building my report. I'm going to go through here. I'm going to hit this here, go back in. And now I want to start deciding, okay, what fields that the applicant answered do I want to put in this contact report? What type of data do I want? So more than likely the data I'm looking for, so that's where one, when you're doing reports, you do need to be familiar with the build of your application forms, where all those fields are located, what sections they're located in. That's very important. So I'm just going to go here. I know it's going to be in personal information. So I have personal information, and now I see my fields. And these, of course, when the application is being built, there's that thing called a report name. Well, that's what the report name is. It's showing us here what the report name was when that application was built. So I do know, let's see, I do want to show you, I'm going to put in first name, last name, because I want to show you when it builds the report, how it picks up the applicant login information. And then these are the actual fields that were within the application form that they actually answered. So here I can kind of do a comparison. Did they log in with the same name that they've applied with? So here I got first name, I have last name. I might want to know maybe what country they're in. I'm going to pick up their address information here. And also one thing you're going to want to watch too is if you have fields that weren't required, maybe you had a leader question that says, do you have a home phone or a mobile phone? you want to make sure that you're getting those as well, because you may see a field blank and think, oh, why is that blank? Well, it's because then if you have that other column in there, you can see, oh, okay, they said no, they don't have a home phone, something to that extent. So you can kind of see the history of why things are blank. So I have address 1, 2, 3, 4. I have a city. I have a state. Let's go ahead and put county, postal, and then I'm going to pick up these 3 phone numbers and their email. Okay, so that's what I need. I'm going to now, I've selected those. I'm going to move them over. And if I wanted to, I could unselect, and then I could start moving things around if I wanted things to be, maybe I wanted to sort, maybe I wanted to have last name, first name instead of first name, last name. I want the last name to be first. So now I'm just going to kind of move that. Okay, so now I have that information. And then of course I would just go through with the rest of the data here. If there was more data I wanted to pick up, I could do so. I could go in and start selecting different things, different sections, and then pulling those questions in as well. But let's just do that for the one that we have for now. So now I have my columns. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save and next. And now this is where I can start filtering on the data that I want to be included in my report. So notice, remember I said I did status, and so this is my applicant contact report, but I only want the applicants. I don't want any of my applicants that were just pending submission. I don't want my pending submission. I'm not going to be contacting them. They weren't part of my process. This is just my applicants that have submitted their application forms. I want their contact information, but I don't want anyone who is pending submission. So that's where I can then filter, because I've included that field. And that's something that's important to note too. In order to filter on a field, you do need to include that field in the report to be able to filter on it. So I'm going to add my condition. So remember, I'm thinking of who I want to include. So I'm going to do add new condition, and it's application data. The section is application data because I'm doing this on the status. I'm going to filter out the status I do not want. Field name, so what's the name of the field that I want to filter on? And that's going to be status. And then over here, what do I want to filter to include? Or maybe I want it to does not contain. So I'm saying filter and display all the applicants whose status does not contain pending submission. So now I'm getting everybody that's submitted and forward. If you have requests pending, maybe you might still have some of those, then you can add that condition. So I can say, does not contain pending submission. And then I can put status does not contain. Maybe I don't want the ones that are request pending because they didn't fully submit either. I'm way down in my process. I've already done my awarding. I don't want those involved. And so then I've got those. And if I knew if I had withdrawn, then I would go through that status and I would pick that one as well, because if there's withdrawn applicants, I don't want those in there either. Okay, but for today, we're just going to do pending submission. So I'm saying give me all the applicants that their status doesn't contain pending submission, or the status doesn't contain requests pending. And then we're going to go ahead and hit finish. And then once we hit finish, then the report will be available in the listing. And I should have put the date in front of it so it was easier to find. Okay, here it is. So here's my report. And so now I'm ready to review it. So all I need to do to view that is hit this little view icon. Sorry, my finger clicked it before I had a point. Let me go back here. So here is the view button right here. So I'm going to click view, and then here's the report and the data. So remember I said the application data, this is their login information. There's email, first name, last name, that's here. And then this first name, last name is going to be the first name, last name of the applicants that have actually applied and the fields that they've actually completed. So of course I have a lot of test data, so it's, it's just different things here that you can see what those first names and last names with how they would have populated those. And then of course there's their address listing, and we can go forward. Now, you also have here where you can take this report and export it to Excel, and then you can put this into an Excel spreadsheet. And then once you have this as an Excel spreadsheet, then of course you can do mail merges to it, since this is an address list, and build your mail merges to maybe your email or something like that, so that this is how you can get that report from the system. So that's just a basic ad hoc report. But now I want to kind of show you, okay, now this is a basic report. How do I include applicant data? I mean, how do I include scorecard information? So now I want to know, maybe I want a report of all of my reviewers that reviewed a specific task, and I want to know how all of my reviewers scored that specific applicant in that score process. I want to see how what every single reviewer scored on my review process. So to create a score report, it's the exact same process we're going to go through here. I'm going to go back, select different report to go back, create new report. I'm going to give it a name. Let's put a date here. And this is going to be my, I'm going to do it on my scholarship, my DHG scholarship review. So this is my review task. I had a review task that was the DHG scholarship review. I want to know how all of my reviewers reviewed all the applicants they were assigned in this review. And I'm going to make it visible to all so that other admin team can come in and see this as well. And so I'm going to select applicant data, section data, and now scorecard information. So that's going to give me all of those task cards that were created in the evaluation setup. So any task card you created, that's where it's going to be looking at all of those cards and looking at the questions you put in those cards. So I'm going to hit save and next. And now here, select application data. Whoops, application data. I want to put my status in. I want my submittal. I always like to put those in. Section data, since I included that, I can actually come in here if I want to, and maybe I want to include some of the key questions that were determining factors on how that applicant was scored. I might want to do that. So I'm just going to quickly pick a couple here. I am going to go ahead here. Let's do this. First name, last name, put that in there. Let's go to academic information. Maybe I want to pull some of that in. Let's see what one. Let's go ahead and get maybe their GPA and put that in there. And now, so that's just different sections. So that just kind of shows you any questions within the sections you can include along with that scoring if you'd like. And then scroll down. And so now here's the task, here's scorecard. Now I only see 4 tasks right now. The only reason I'm seeing 4 tasks are because in the evaluation, if you remember right, if you were on those training sessions, when you create task cards, you can turn those off where it says show and review reports. Well, I only have 4 of them turned on right now. So if I needed to pull information from another task card that's not showing here, I do need to go back to the evaluation screen, to that manage tasks, and make sure that that task has been selected to show on reports. And then once it is selected, then I can come here and then it'll start showing here and I can start pulling the data. So I'm going to go ahead and I want all the questions from this DHG Endowed Scholarship. So now I've selected it and it's showing every single question that was scored on. So I do want every one of them. I want to know how every reviewer answered every question. So I'm going to hit the select all and I'm going to pull that over into my report. So now I have it, and you'll notice as soon as I selected everything for that specific task, it's now empty. And so now I've got everything I need for my report. I'm going to go ahead and save and next. And one element when you do scorecards like this, task cards, you're just wanting the data for this one task card. You don't want to see the data for all the tasks. Then what you need to do is you do need to add a condition. This is very important when pulling on task cards. Add a new condition and select scorecard information is the report item. The section name is going to be scorecard information, and this is task cards. Even though it says scorecard, it's also meaning task card. So when you see that word score, don't get confused. It is the task card. And then field name, what's the name of the task that you want to include in this report? So what it's doing is it's asking you, you want the scorecard data, and I see you selected the questions for a specific scorecard, but if you don't select a specific task, I'm going to report on everything as well. I'm going to give you all the reviews with empty data, of course, because you're not pulling the fields from those other task cards. But here you want to say, what's the task you're wanting to pull the data on? And so I'm going to say I want the task that equals the DHG Endowed Scholarship. So include that in my report. And now I'm ready to finish my report. And now I'm back here on this page. Here's the report I just created, and I can view it. And I know you noticed probably this other view column here. I wanted to wait till I had some meaningful data. So here, I'm going to show you the difference between the two different views. The basic view is I'm seeing that review process. And for every reviewer, so here I have 3 reviews on this one applicant, same applicant, 3 different reviews. I have 3 reviews of that applicant. And of course, I can scroll to the bottom here, move right to left, and that's giving me the score on every one of those. And then of course, when I get to the end here, it's going to give me information on records that review card. I have the submittal functionality turned on. So is it saying, did the reviewer submit it? Yes, they did. Total score of that reviewer, the total score across all 3 reviews, and then what was the average. And remember, this is averaging based on the reviews that were completed. Now, another thing to make a note of when you do a scorecard like this is only giving you the scores of the reviews that have been done. So if you had, say the applicant, of course, had 3 reviews, maybe I had 4 reviewers assigned to it, that 4th reviewer is not going to show on this report until they start doing their scoring. So if there was a 4th person, it's not going to have that 4th person showing up on the screen. So that's the basic view. So of course I can see, and if I want to, I can export this to Excel. I can then, once I export, I can run my figures outside in the Excel spreadsheet. I can do formulas in my Excel spreadsheet to run totals on things. That's very helpful. But let's say I want to see maybe a grouping of all of them that Colleen reviewed. So that's where the advanced view comes into play. So I'm going to go back out and I'm going to go back into my score sheet, but I'm going to go to the advanced. And what the advanced view allows you to do is create some groupings within the report. So up here, see where it says drag a column header and drop it here to group by that column. So if I wanted to get all of Colleen's put together, I can then come up here, grab this here, this column, see how it gives the little crossbars, left click on it, and then come over here and see where it says drag and drop. I can then drag and drop that into this yellow bar. And then you'll notice as soon as I dragged and dropped it, what did it do? It grouped them all together. And then I can export this to Excel, and maybe I want to run a total on all the scores that Caroline gave to all of her reviews. I can do that, of course. And so then here you can see there's Caroline. Now, and then of course you can rearrange it however you wish with that advanced functionality. So that's what that does. So let me select a different report. So that's a score report. The next report I want to touch on is the award report. So the award report is going to give you all of your awarding data, of course. So with the award report, and let me just show you this one here real quick. I want to go through. You can see we selected the award information. I'm just going to kind of show you what I selected because I know you know how to select now. So here we select award information. We did save and next. And then what we do is with the award information column, you get what's called award information. And then when you select that award information, it shows you all of the available fields that you can pull in. In this report, I've already picked the fund name and the final award. So the fund name is going to tell me if you have a one-to-many process, especially, it's going to give you the name of that fund that was awarded to the applicant, and then what was the final award amount given to that applicant. But you can see you can put in initial award. If you're using the renewable functions within your awarding, you can actually plug that data in. Down here, I have those activated fields that were in the administration site setting. These are fields that I've created to put into my award. I can actually put those into my report if I wanted to, like maybe I want to know who was awarded, what was the final award amount. Maybe also I might want to put some data in regards to the scholarship acknowledgement form. Who do I need to award? Where did the money go? What was the agency that we were to be paying? If I had that question here, then I could pull that in there as well. And then also, again, when did we pay it? All those fields, if you activated them, then you can put those in this report. So here you can kind of see I actually did I put an institution name as well as when is that tuition date due. So those were fields when they, after they were awarded, I had a section open. Who do we write the check to? What institution are you attending? And when is this tuition date due? And then that way, once they've answered it, I have that in this report. So I'm going to hit save and next. And then the next level I wanted to do is the award information, the fund name. I'm just saying, give me all of my applicants where their fund name is not empty. So that tells me only give me the applicants where I've actually awarded them a fund. Because if they weren't awarded a fund, then that fund name field is going to be empty because they didn't receive an award. So now I'm going to go ahead and hit finish. And then I can look at my award report. I'm going to view it. And now I can see my awards that were given. And again, you're going to notice, so here this individual received during this application, she received 2 different awards. These are the 2 different scholarships she received and the amount. So there's going to be a line for every award if this is a one-to-many process. If it's a one-to-one, of course, you're just going to have the name of that one fund. But in this case, you can see she received 2 different awards, so it's going to give me a line for each one. When was the tuition date and what was the institution that we were to be paying? So you can see, as long as you've got the field built, you can input it into this report. So that's kind of a nice little fun history report. So that's ad hoc reports and how you build ad hoc reports. The next report I want to touch on, of course, is going to be the section status report. Now this report can take a little while to run based on the data that you're have in your application form. So sometimes we say go ahead and start it and then maybe go get a cup of coffee, come back. Or maybe if it's you have a lot of data, maybe start it before you leave for the day, and then when you come back in the morning, it should be there, or break for lunch or something like that. So to get to that report, again, we're in Manage Reports. And then over here on the drop down over here, you're going to see something called Section Status Report, which is the Section Status Report. I'm going to click it. Now, yesterday when I did this, it only took about 2 minutes to run. So we're going to see, hopefully, my system's still running. There we go. So here's the Section Status Report. And you can see what this is doing is there's no drill down. But when applicants are applying, maybe you want to kind of see, how's everybody doing? Where's everybody in the application process? How close are my applicants to completing their applications? That's what the purpose of this report is. It's a report that reports on the current status of your applicants and where they are in applying on their application form. It's giving you the percentage of completion. So here I can see this applicant, they've completed all these sections. This section they haven't completed. These maybe 13%. This was a recommendation section. The recommender only completed maybe 13% of it. Attachments, they haven't done that section. So that's what this is kind of telling you. And then of course you can scroll back and forth, and of course you can export this to Excel. So that's what this report does. So just wanted to let you know that that is a report that is out there and available. And then of course the other thing that sometimes is helpful is a report called the application graph. What that does is helps you see just a nice graph of your current applicants and where they are. It's a nice big overview. You can see, you can change it if you wanted it to be a donut, and you can kind of see, okay, I have 13 applicants that have been awarded, 4 that were selected for an award. So in what I'm looking at right now, I can quickly see, okay, I have these applicants that I've selected for an award. 13 of them have completed the award process. 4 of them are still pending and haven't gone in and accepted their award. So that's what this is telling me. If I wanted to, I can actually come here, I can drill down, and then it'll give me who those applicants are. And I'm here sitting here on the Manage Applicant page. So I'm going to stop there, and we'll take a quick 5-minute break here and let Maureen answer any questions you may have. Maureen, it's yours.
Thank you so much, Christine. Okay, we do have a few questions here. Let me just, okay, my ad hoc reports are not returning any data. So what you can do is, the reasons why data is not appending in your ad hoc report is, very rare. It doesn't really happen. But when it does, it could be due to the data sync process that happens at the back end. Okay, this is a process that runs constantly, but sometimes it can break. And when it breaks, means
I think we just lost Maureen.
When applicants are constantly working, maybe towards the end of your application cycle, when your deadline date is, and sorry, Christine.
You cut
Hello?
out on us, Maureen. Maureen, hello? Can you hear me?
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Thank you so much for telling me. Yeah, could be an internet issue. All right. Sorry about that, everyone. Let me repeat my answer for you. Just a second. Let me go back to the question. Okay. So here's the thing. There is a backend sync always running on your site. Okay. So the answers, the responses that your applicants are updating, your reviewers are giving the scores, it is constantly syncing in the system. But sometimes that sync can break. Okay. That is the reason why your report is not showing any data. All right. So in such a case, you have a few buttons, and I'm sure a lot of you have observed. Christine, can we go to the grant site? Thank you so much. Because Christine has updated all of the data on her scholarship site. But if we go to the grant site,
And
under
a
ad
lot
hoc
of times, I
reports.
guess, I don't know if you
Sorry.
said this earlier, I just want to make sure people understand. So if you're making changes, you've cloned an application, you're making changes, you're removing questions, you're adding questions, you're making all these changes. Before you go live, you want to make sure and update the database, because you want to make sure your reports get into sync, because that is something that can break that if you make changes to any questions that are currently out there, or even your fun criteria. If you have a one-to-many, you're building criteria, you're changing your criteria and all that. That's breaking the reports, because the reports were tied to that, and so that's why you then have this functionality that Maureen's talking about. Okay,
yes, thank you so much, Christine. Yes, those are very important points that we should remember. It's not just the responses we are getting from applicants and reviewers, it is also the admin. Sometimes if you're working on something from the admin side, the reports might break. So there we have the Recreate reporting database and the sync. So Recreate reporting database is currently not showing up, I believe, here because, well, everything is synced. The admin has not, oh, it is showing, sorry, Christine. The panel was covering my screen. Sorry, yeah. It is on the scholarship side. So Recreate reporting database when you have been making changes to your application, and that is when the Recreate reporting database appears. Now, on the other side, when your applicant data, reviewer data is not syncing from the backend, that is when you are going to see those two buttons. So you can click on sync applicant data when you're pulling information from the application itself, sections and questions, etc. And then, of course, you have the review sync review data. When reviewers are entering the scores, you're not getting the report pulled in, as Christine has given two separate examples. Sorry, three examples. One was for the application information, the other one was from the reviewer, the third was the wordings. So in this case, if the reviewer information was not populating, you can always click on the sync review data. Thank you. I hope that was helpful. Okay, there we have a question. Can I clone ad hoc reports from any other application? Well, it clearly seems that you had created some reports on another application, but unfortunately, currently we do not have that process in the system. However, during the cloning process, remember this, everyone, when you are cloning an application from a previous application to the next application cycle, always associate that fund. Keep the fund ready, and there is a step that associates the fund with the application. Please do not skip that step. That fund being associated with your application during the cloning process will make sure that all of the reports come through onto your new application as well. As of now, as Christine has showed, you can copy ad hoc reports within the application, but you cannot clone these into from another application. Can I reorder the fields in my report when I see it? When you're setting it up? Absolutely, yes, you can reorder. So Christine, can we click on editing any of these reports? You can change the order of the fields that you're seeing in your report. Yeah. So if we go to any one particular, yes, edit anyone that you have it. Okay. Now simply click on save and next. Here, see, select, move them up and down, change the order. You want to start with the name of the applicant first. It's always, you can change the order. And the report that you're going to get is how you want it seen, the fields to be populating in your report. Okay. Then we have a question. Just a second. Okay, this has been covered. Can I set up a person just to access reports, like a dedicated person just assisting you with reports? We totally understand the importance of reporting in the system, and it is very important that you have a dedicated person. I mean, of course, the admin can use all the functionalities in the system, but if you go to the administration, can we go to the administration, Christine? We have a specific role type in the system. Yes, manage role types, right? So we have global or department reporting. These two role types only have access to the reporting aspect of your site or your application. These users do not really have access to any other side of your application, the review scorecards or the awarding, etc. They can simply work on reports and constantly pull reports from your system. Also, these two role types have no cost associated with it. So they are free, and you can set up as many global or department or reporting role types in the system. I mean, you can have 4 or 5 people only working on reports. Yes, Christine is showing you something that
so
you
just want
can.
to
give,
reiterate that
yes.
those rule types, you may have made adjustments on your own. So don't think, like, as you can see in my illustration here, this specific rule type actually has more than just manage reports. So what you want to make sure you do is make sure you turn off the other functionality so they can't access the report screen, anything but the reporting. So then you want to give them access to those areas. So because if all those are selected, that means they have access to those areas. So then you just select the areas that they're not to be allowed in.
Okay. Okay, Christine. I think that about covers the questions, and I think I'll, pass over the mic back to you, so we can continue with the webinar. Thank you, everyone.
Okay,
Thank you, Christine.
you're welcome. So now let's just go on and talk about some other reporting. So we also have out there the global reporting of we have an ad hoc report that's for global. So global ad hoc reports allows you to create ad hoc reports across multiple application forms. Maybe you have, for instance, the one I'm going to show you today, I have the application I just went in on. I have two other years that I have that exact application process that I've just cloned from year to year. We go forward from year to year, and now maybe I want to do some comparisons. Maybe I want a demographic report, like for this specific program, over the last 3 years, what was the demographics? What were some of the different, areas? What was the awarding? That sort of thing. So that's what Global Reports does. As you can see, there's no limit on the number of reports that you can create in the system. It's the same with the ad hoc reports. There's no limit on the number of reports. But Global Report and only difference is with global reporting, it's an ad hoc report where it allows you to report across multiple applications. Now, one caveat with global reporting is in order to report across multiple applications, you do have to have a master template built on your site. So when I say master template, if you notice here when I go to my home page, there's a master template. And the master template has every section and every question in all of my application forms. In order to pull a field into global ad hoc reports, that field has to be up here in the master template application. It has to be the exact XML. So like in this application, maybe I had certain fields, but then the next year, maybe I needed to add a few more because maybe I had a new fund, I had some new parameters, I needed to add some questions to be able to pull criteria on that fund. I would want to make sure that I had that question built in the master template and then push it down to my new application because I want to make sure that I can pull that in my global ad hoc reports. If the question is not in the master template, it's not going to let you pull that field in. So that's how it allows you to be able to get data from multiple applications, as long as it's got one location that it can look at to find all those fields. It doesn't have to look at all those applications. It's looking at the master template. So any question that's in any of your application forms, you want them to be in your master template. Even if you delete it from the question here, leave it in the master template, because the master template, maybe you want to report on something from the year before and you want that field. If you take it out of the master template, it won't ever be there ever again. So that's what the master template does. So to do a global report, it's the exact same process as ad hoc reports. The only difference with global ad hoc reports is when we come here and we hit that create new report, we have a different screen that's going to pop up first. And that's going to say what applications are you wanting to include in this report. So I'm going to just go ahead, I'm going to leave that blank because I'm going to select specific applications. So I want all of my applications maybe to appear, or maybe if I have so many, I don't want that. So let me go ahead and select here. I think, let me just pick up one more year just to be on the safe side. Click OK. Organization, I don't care, but what I do care about is I want to select the applications. So I want to put my 2022 one-to-many application I want to run along with my 2023, and then I should have, hopefully, yes, a 2021. Click OK. Now, when I hit save and next, there's that similar screen. You can see the report name. So I'm going to maybe call this my annual scholarship application comparison, something to that extent. And then who's visible? I'm going to put visible to all. And now here you can include application data. You can include section data, but you're going to notice scorecard data is not here because scorecards can change so much. But I can also include the award information. So maybe I wanted to see over the last 3 years, what was the awarding and how did that happen? So let's go ahead and hit save and next. And then here we are. This is where we start putting those fields in. So this is where I want to put application data. I'm going to pull my status. Maybe I want to know when they submitted it. I'm gonna maybe, let's see, maybe I want to put some demographic information in here. So maybe I can pull personal information of my applicants. Maybe I want to know some of this information. Were they married? Put that in there. Were they a first generation student? You know, so you can just start pulling in here. Maybe I want to see, maybe they're minors when I gave them awards, what were, you know, just so you can just kind of see, just an idea of what's in there. And then the award information. Let me go scroll down. Let's put award information. And then save and next. And then maybe I want to do a condition here of award information. Select fund name. I just want to look at my award for the DHG. So I'm saying, I should put contains here. Fund name contains DHG. So give me the award information I want to see from my DHG fund across these last 3 years, the applications that they applied to, and then give some of the demographic information along with it. And then hit finish. And now I come back here and locate the report here and hit view. And now I can see there's the comparison here. I can kind of actually see here's the application. So I can see 2 from this application. This application, there was 1, here was 1. So I can kind of see, of course, all of that data on this report across all 3 of those application forms. And again, like I said, this is looking at the fields, even though they may not be in each of the applications, they are in the master template. So since they're in the master template, it's going to let me report on those fields. And if there was a field that was in one application but not the other, then of course that application, that field would be blank. But since it's in the master template, it's going to go ahead and let me pick that field. So it's only going to show me when I do that selection fields that are part of the master template. So then of course you can export that to Excel. So that's global ad hoc reports. The next reports we're just going to quickly review because there's reports that are already out there. We've covered in other trainings. They're just a global version of them. So the first one we have is the Global Manage Awards report. That's the Global Manage Awards. That's the same as the Manage Awards One Fund. So a lot of you grant users, you're managing awards, you're awarding your applicants. This is if you have multiple applications, you don't want to keep going in and out. You don't want to go home, find the application, click on that application, then go to the awarding, manage awards. You can do them all from here. You can just pick, maybe I want to do this one. And then it's going to give me the award information. Now I'm done with that one. I'm done doing my awarding. I want to move to the next one. I can switch and I can quickly move to the next one. So that's what that allows you to do, is do that Manage Awards One Fund from this one screen. It's a global, it allows you to access multiple application forms. So of course, if you are a client, the global reports area, if you only have certain admins where you want them to have access to certain application forms, you more than likely don't want to give them access to the global screen here, because then they can get to all of them. The other one I want to look at is the fund history report. So what this does is if you have multiple funding sources and you want to know maybe for multiple years what was the whole entire award history for that fund. So maybe, for instance, maybe I have a fund, let's see, let me see if it lets me. DHG, so the DHG fund here. I want to see all of my funding history for that. I can do so. I can put the fund in. I can leave the academic year blank. I can see over all the funding that I put into the system, what's the total, what's the initial, and what was remaining. I can see all the applicants. I can see what application they applied to, what year that funding came from, and then what was the amount of that funding, and also the scoring information. So that's what that does. It gives me a nice overview of my fund history. And then the other one we have, another global, is global manage applicants, and it's a global of exactly what it's saying. It's the manage applicants, but what it does is gives you the ability to switch from one application to another. You can select academic year, you can look at just specific organizations. So maybe I want to look at the 2022 One2Many app, and I can see all my applicants that applied. If you haven't disconnected the fund on that, you can actually go to Manage Awards. And those that of you, when I say disconnect the fund, you'll know what I'm talking about. But here you can see Global Manage Applicants. This is the funding. This is more for the One2Many process. So this is how you can get to the funding sources, and you can see for that specific funding, you can see what the awarding was. Or maybe you have multiple One2Many applications. You can actually bounce back and forth between all of those different applications by going through this global manage applicants. Another report I want to show you here is the recommender report. A lot of you are familiar. If you have request sections where the applicants are requesting, nominating individuals to complete a section, it's a private section. If you have request sections, then you'll know what they're recommending an applicant. You want to see a report of all the applicants and who they recommended to complete those request sections. Then that's what this recommender report does. And it's here in Global Reports, Recommender Report History. This gives you a listing of all for a specific academic year. So it only does this academic year, but you can filter on the applications. So maybe I wanted the 21-22 applications, or maybe I want my most current here. Click OK. And now I can see the applicant. What's the application? And I can see who they recommended to complete that, when they requested it, has it been received? And so what I can do with this, of course, I can export this to Excel. If I'm seeing there's a bunch of recommenders that haven't done their request yet, I can actually export this to Excel. I have their email address, and I can shoot that recommender, say, hey, your applicant has asked you to complete a section. You haven't done so yet. There's a deadline coming up. You could cause them to not be able to have a valid application. Can you please go in and complete this for them? That's what you can use this for, especially if you're working with a lot of school counselors. You can actually get this listing for that school counselor. You can filter it. You can then send it to that counselor and say, hey, here's all the applicants that you have that you need to do request for. So that's what the recommender report, what's nice about that specific one. And then finally, the last thing I want to cover is just a global search. So a lot of our clients have multiple applications, and applicant contacts them and says, hey, I need assistance with an application. Can you help me? And they don't know what application it was that they applied for. What global search is up here in the right-hand corner, and this is something that gets everyone's defaulted turned on, but if for some reason you turn it off, you might not see it here. There is an administration site setting that talks about activating the global search. So here is where you can search. So I can put in Christine Smith. I can search, and it's going to show all the occurrences that Christine Smith has applied. The first screen is going to show me that there, by academic year, there was a Christine Smith in all of these academic years. So one, I can see, okay, now I know she's in all these academic years. But what's nice is you can actually click on the name, and then it's going to give you that same history, but it's going to show you the actual application. And then if I go down here, and that they actually applied to. And then of course here then I can view the application, or I can go to the applicant dashboard. I can do that drill down where I can actually see that application form and how they answered it. Okay, so that's it. That's all I have to show you today. So we'll turn it over to Marie, and we'll do the final closing.
Thank you so much, Christine. Okay, there are some questions. On my global reports, sections are not showing. That is when our client, they were trying to create a global report, right? None of the sections were showing. Please check if you have set up a master template. It is extremely important that you have a master template set up in the system. There might be multiple applications, but the master template might not have been given a category, as present under administration. So as Christine is showing us, set master application template. Now you have to make sure that this master template matches all the sections and questions that are present in your other applications as well. If those XMLs, the section XMLs, the question XMLs do not match, you're not going to see the sections, okay? Please make sure that you have a master template set up on your site. First, most important thing. Okay, then we have another question. I think this was the same thing. My global reports are not, and ad hoc reports are not pulling any data. What did I do wrong? Well, it's the same thing. Either the sync is not working, or there were some changes made by the admin themselves. If you have updated, synced, and recreated the reporting database, even then the data is not appending in your report, please reach out to us on Zendesk, open a ticket with our support team, and we'll have to sync or update the reporting database from the backend. That's the last resort that our technical team will have to take care of. So please open a ticket with us on Zendesk after you've clicked on create and synced the reports from your side. Okay, so please do feel free to reach out to us as well. Another question that we have is, I think I've covered most of the questions. Yeah, you had a question. Okay. So yeah, I think I'm good, Christine. I've answered the relevant questions in the Q&A box. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Noreen. So of course, make sure you get the handout so you get all the resources that go into more detail. The click here links will take you directly to the Zendesk guide on our help desk so that you'll be able to get more details on reporting. Because of course, we would love to cover everything, but of course you can see it does get kind of difficult, especially when we have questions. We want to make sure we cover everything. And then again, we want to thank everybody for attending today's session. If there is anything in regards to your processes, in regards to reporting that we covered today, maybe you want to have a little more of an in-depth discussion about your specific process. So you can always click here, look at our Calendly link, and see when you can schedule a process review meeting with one of our specialists. Or you can also go to Zendesk, enter a support ticket, and request someone to assist you as well to have a time set. If the Calendly link doesn't have a time that you're available, then you can always go through Zendesk and request the same. Now, of course, something new that we're attaching to in the email, the follow-up email that you'll get tomorrow that has the link to the recording that you always get following our session. We do have a survey we're going to be attaching to that, so we ask that you please fill out that survey, and then that'll help us better know, of course, how we can improve our webinars, as well as maybe some topics you might be interested in us covering in some future webinars, some things that you're running into. And then also, so just please go ahead and fill that out. And then also we are kind of interested in what type of reports our clients are using our system for. And that helps us better know how to build our reporting functionality so that we can help you have better, robust reporting functions. So again, thank you for your time, and thank you so much for attending our session today, and hope that you've enjoyed it. So everyone have a very great week, and our next session will be October 31st. So I'll be going on vacation, and then when I come back, we'll be doing another webinar on the 31st. So everyone have a good day. Take care.